All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Michigan Edition. We've been back weekly to talk a little bit of Michigan football and returning regular guest Dan. How are you, sir?
Great, man. I'm glad to be back, but not glad or not happy about what we see on Saturdays. But
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, when we started talking about this weeks ago, and we were talking about doing a weekly pod for this
yeah,
season, I honestly thought it would be more eventful than what it's being. We had talked before the season that I think both of us probably thought we were looking at 2 wins. I think you were maybe in the vicinity of 2 losses. I think you were maybe in the vicinity of 3 or maybe even 4 losses. I couldn't envision 4 losses. I thought that was crazy talk, but here we are sitting at 1-3, and it just seems like we're light years away from a second win. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let's get to the Wisconsin game. First off, this got ugly really quick. They opened up with a 28-0 lead at the half, which was the largest halftime deficit at Michigan Stadium since like 1927 or whatever the hell the stat was. But Milton throws 2 early picks, and it ends up being a huge difference maker in this game. What did you think initially in the first half?
that we were screwed.
Yeah.
Because at halftime it's 28-0, and it was all over Twitter. It was all over the play-by-play and the commentary. The team did not look energized at all. Obviously, you were already missing Aiden Hutchinson, and you were missing who the hell else you're missing? It was Aiden Hutchinson and Kwity Paye.
Kwity Paye was out.
And so you got arguably your 2 most talented guys on defense out. Yeah. So it's going to be a tough task. So at halftime, 28-0, you're like, man, this team is playing with zero energy. And it really wasn't until like the beginning of the fourth quarter where you saw some emotion. And so at halftime, it just wasn't looking pretty. And I felt like I felt like it's not 28-3 and you got Tom Brady on the other side of the field. Like, it's gonna be a lost cause. But yeah, it was. I want to say I guess I was shocked, but it was just hard to comprehend.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough pill to swallow. I mean, it wasn't shockingly. At this point, sitting at 1-2 coming into this game, and when they go up 14-0, I'm like, we played pretty bad, and then they go up 28-0. I'm like, that's the night. This game's over, And for me personally, unless I have something that requires my attention to be elsewhere, whether it's a Saturday birthday party or whether it's a Saturday cookout, in the fall, or a bonfire some friends are having. I've always been the kind that finishes the game. I watch the whole game, whether it's a blowout our side or other side. I've watched these Ohio State games come down to the absolute wire when they're just drumming us. Back in the Rich Rod era, I was watching games when we're losing by 20 plus points in the fourth quarter, and I've watched my fair share of Rutgers games when we're up 50-0 in the fourth quarter. So it's like, I typically don't turn the game off, unless something requires my attention. I really don't. And in this third quarter, I had seen enough. I had seen enough, and I turned it off. And you had text me that, McNamara, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Comes out and goes 3 of 3, 74 yards and a touchdown pretty effortlessly. And then after that, he proceeds to go 1 of 4, I believe, right? Yeah, 1 of 4.
Yeah.
What did you see from him? Because I did not watch it live. What did you think that when he came in, and what did he present?
Well, I think it was part of it's kind of like a stroke of luck, because he goes in there. He's probably, I'm not trying to be a mind reader here, but he going in there obviously wants to do well, and hits 3 passes in a row. He hit. I can't even remember how it transpired from now, because it seems so many days ago. But he hit bang, 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 and then they're in the end zone, touchdown, and it was 3 straight completions, and you're like, wow, okay. And The first one, I believe, was over the middle pass, and it was either to Ronnie Bell or Eric All. Don't quote me; I can't remember exactly who the first target was to. But he hits that first pass, and you're like, okay, interesting. Then he hits the second one, and you're like, it was like down the sideline. I'm like, okay, now you got my attention. And then he throws a touchdown, and I'm like, all right, that looked good. And then, of course, Michigan Twitter and the fan pages are going like, I told you we should have started McNamara. And to me, the 2010, 2011 me would be like, yeah, McNamara. But I'm like, now the 2020 me, and I'm like, okay, just sit back, just relax. Let's see the second series, okay? Because Wisconsin has like zero tape on McNamara, and it was 3 bang plays. Like, let's just come to the ground level here, just relax. And like you said, he finished out the rest of the game like pretty uneventful. But again, I feel like maybe going in this Rutgers game, I mean, you could probably give McNamara the start. You're 1-3, unfortunately, and Joe Milton is thrown 4 interceptions the last 2 games. So, I mean, what do you have to lose? But at that point in the game, it caught my attention. But again, I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon on Cade's side. I mean, of course, I hope he does well, but that is just a sliver of things to come. So,
yeah. You had mentioned that potentially Eric All had caught that one over the middle. I'm going to correct you there. Eric All's terrible. Okay. He did not catch that. He actually had 2 catches for 1 yard.
Okay.
My biggest problem with Eric All, and Kirk Herbstreit had a slight segment, and it was during the game he was talking about Eric All, so you would have had to have been listening and paying attention to catch this. But he actually said that he talked to Jim Harbaugh about Eric All, and he says that Harbaugh said that Eric All has the opportunity to be the greatest tight end in the history of Michigan. And he even might even said history of college football. Like, his thought process on Eric All is like through the roof. He thinks
yes. I'm glad you brought that up because when I was you were watching the game live at that point, right?
Yes, I was.
And when I heard that, I'm like, Eric All, the best in school history. I'm like, I know Michigan's not like necessarily known for like being a tight end but I can name, I don't know, Tyler Ecker from the Lloyd Carr era, who was more of a blocking guy that could catch or whatever. He's probably like Tyler Ecker, like with Lloyd Carr, was kind of like what Jimmy Graham is now. Could catch a pass if you need to, but he's going to be there to open up the off the tackle. But just to go out and say something like that, like to hype someone up, I understand, being positive, whatever. But I was like, what? That raised my eyebrow when I heard that.
Yeah, and truthfully, it came at a really bad time because Eric All had just dropped another pass, which we've seen him drop. God, I don't have the count, but it's upwards of 5 or 6 passes this year at this point. It's been at least one a game. The big one I think it was week 1, he dropped a huge touchdown pass. It was right in his hand and Brad basket, and it was wide open. He drops it, but that's been one of my problems with this team too, is the fact that they keep continuing using Eric All, and Nick Eubanks comes out and has a solid effort. 2 catches for 41 yards. I'm willing to bet that's probably just as much as Eric All has in the whole year. And we haven't seen a lot of Eubanks. I was actually
is Nick Eubanks hurt? I don't understand why he's not getting the start.
Because they feel like Eric All is this almighty. I'm lost because Nick Eubanks is a very good tight end, and especially somebody that you can look for on third down in a third and 14. He's been great in that. And before the game, actually, they caught a glimpse of it. He was the guy hyping up the team before they took the field. I mean, that's your guy, and we're using. And I'm not trying to just destroy Eric All here, but he's been mediocre this year. For somebody that Kirk Herbstreit reported that Harbaugh thinks this guy is the next coming of Jesus, and we just haven't seen it. It's been frustrating.
Unless he's a blue chip All-American on the practice field, I don't see the hype. I mean, I don't want to tear down Eric All. You got this weird thing with college football. It's like you're rooting for amateur athletes, and these are college kids, so you don't want to be too, like, I don't want to say mean, but again, like he's not he's not shown anything to me. And Nick Eubanks, who is a senior, like I don't know what is Eric Hall giving you in practice that's dethroning Nick Eubanks of that starting spot? And whether they're on the field at the same time in certain sets or whatever, I feel like Nick Eubanks, he's a pretty good target.
Yeah, I was under the impression that Nick Eubanks had NFL potential after this season, and I feel like we're slowly taking that draft stock away, which we've done to a lot of Wolverines over the last couple of years, especially in the receiving aspect of things. But the biggest aspect of this game was Wisconsin ran it 51 times for 341 yards, 5 touchdowns. They ran it at 6.7 yards a carry. This was the first team to actually beat us with what they do best and not what we do worst.
Yep.
They only threw it 22 times. So you could actually argue, and they threw it almost just over 50%. You could actually argue that Michigan's secondary actually played good in this game. You could argue that.
Yep.
But Joe Milton obviously was really bad. So it's just another game where we can't put a collective effort together. And I'm going to complain a little bit here, but and I understand we went down 20-0, but Hassan Haskins gets 1 carry.
Again, we touched on this last week. This very strange running back by committee that Harbaugh and Gaddis, or whoever's making this final call, rolling out there. It seems like they try to rely on Corum a little bit more, probably.
Which I'm okay with, but he doesn't seem to be able to go between the tackles.
No,
it seems like he's an off tackle back.
Exactly, and they were playing down a lot, so obviously these numbers are particularly convincing. But you know what? You could. I think you could probably just take the 3 carries from Charbonnet away completely, give those to Haskins. I don't know. It was a very strange rotation again.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, and this is literally bizarre, but they only ran 45 plays. I mean, to Wisconsin's 70. They ran like 73 or 74 plays. So, I mean, it just was not close.
Well, the time of possession was 40 minutes to under 20.
Yeah.
That's awful.
It is absolutely awful. And, a lot of times what you'll see in blowouts, is you'll see the team that wins doesn't win the time of possession because they're just scoring at will, and the other team's on the field so much that they're actually unable to sustain drive. But in this case, it wasn't that. They just because they ran it so effectively and for so many yards and at such a high clip. So, yeah, it's a really disappointing game. But let's try to be somewhat positive. Is there anybody that kind of stood out that you can say this player had a good game? This player, Go ahead.
I do say that. Again, he's been burnt toast all season, but particularly probably, or it could be his best game of the year is Vincent Gray. He had 2 pass defense. He swatted the ball twice, which it sounds kind of lame, but you know what? From where he's been this year, I thought that was pretty good. He wasn't really getting picked on a lot. It was a lot of Jermaine Green and Brett Hawkins. Brett Hawkins is a veteran on this team. Not necessarily getting a whole lot of starts in previous years, but Brett Hawkins is supposed to be now kind of relied on because we don't have no Ambry Thomas after the opt out. So I felt like Vincent Gray improved a little bit. Daxton Hill racked up some tackles this week. He was kind of all over the field. He's still getting kind of lost in coverage a couple times, but yeah, I have to go with Vincent Gray. I think he not a stat stuffer, but he wasn't as a reliable or liability this week.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that. My pick though would be, and I touched on it, Nick Eubanks. For the first time, he was actually a factor. He caught a 28-yard pass that was huge. 2 catches for 41 yards. I'm gonna beat this, but this guy can get 4 catches a game. You got to get him in there, and it's nothing against Eric All, but until he proves that he can catch a more consistent pass, he's not going to be my consistent target. I mean, I'm sorry, but the target's got to be shared around. And, Ronnie Bell's proved that he can catch the ball. Giles Jackson can prove that he can catch the ball. Even Cornelius Johnson, who doesn't really get anything in this game, but when he's been in this year, he's been very good. But Nick Eubanks, I think he was the one bright spot. Hopefully, maybe next week he gets something going. Is there anybody that you were just like, rough outing? Who's the bad this week?
Well, I hate to keep beating Eric All into the ground. I think Joe Milton is. I feel like if he gets the nod against Rutgers as the first drive starter, I wouldn't be mad. He throws 2 picks this past weekend. The first one, kind of in tight coverage. Eric All catches it off the shoulder pad, gets intercepted. But the second one was straight to the linebacker. It was so 2014 Devin Gardner. It was really, and that was gift wrapped, and it was to the house.
Yeah.
So I think Joe Milton is definitely a huge factor in keeping the tide rolling in Wisconsin's favor, because Joe Milton makes a couple right decisions, they can strike back. But Wisconsin, even though they run the piss out of the ball, you get down to them, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to make a comeback.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think if I had to give the bad to anybody, I'd probably say Josh Gaddis. I'm going to give it to a play caller. I haven't seen the play calling be what it needs to be since week 1. And I think we're starting to learn that Minnesota wasn't nearly as good as we thought they were, clearly. And Michigan was able to take advantage of that. But on the flip end of things, we got to call better games. We got to get more consistent carries to our proven running backs, whether that be Charbonnet, whether that be Haskins, whether that be Blake Corum. Your leading carrier has 7 carries. That's Joe Milton, okay, for 2 yards a clip, so 15 yards. And then Blake gets 7 carries for 5 yards. Wow. Obviously, the offensive line hasn't been good. They're probably my ugly for this week. If I had, we're not getting offensive line play. I mean, the timing in the pocket, the holes for the running backs to get through it's been bad. But ultimately, I think Josh Gaddis could help us out with what you're calling speed and space. Speed and space. Come on, get something schemed up, scheme guys open, and help your QB out and help these running backs out. But right now, we're just we're a mess. We're a mess. Well, we can move on to Rutgers if you don't have anything else to add here.
No, I really don't have nothing else to add other than, definitely, because you watch the Jim Harbaugh post game, and the guy just looks so defeated. And a lot of people bring up 2015, 2016, those seasons kind of took a toll on him emotionally, and it's kind of head scratching when he's got no answers in his press conference. He's referring to, or we got to look at the tape. We got to get with the coaches. We got to sit down and we got to re-scheme, retool. We got to see what's going on behind in the wrinkles. And what's killing them right now is the first and second down. Their offensive line is struggling really bad. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And we mentioned it. During the Michigan State post game. Going into that. They're losing 3 linemen to injuries, illness, whatever that week. So the run game isn't obviously very, very good at all. And so when you get first, second down, and you just watch the Wisconsin game, first down, run play, goes for no gain. Then they try to run a screen or something to get the ball out of Milton's hands really fast, and then that goes for a huge loss. That's like 5-6 yards. Then you're looking at like 3rd and 7 if you're lucky, and that's asking Joe Milton a lot, because obviously we're having the dropped balls, we're having players not getting open, and then we have Joe Milton firing missiles everywhere. So hopefully with the time between this game and this coming up Saturday, they can hopefully correct these this game script. But anyways, yeah, that's it for me on Wisconsin.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you there. It's been, I guess, to defend him a little bit, is just like anything he says in that press conference is going to get ripped apart. That's the way of the media. They want to be able to ask that edgy question that's going to get somebody worked up, or a non-response, and then the non-response is treated like the coach is being an asshole. But hell, he just went out there at home on national television, primetime game, and got his ass handed to him 49-11. What is he going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they're not good enough, But let's move on to Rutgers. Let's start here. First off, who do you think starts at QB?
I don't think that's an easy answer, or there's an easy answer to that. I think that McNamara is going to get the start because, again, you're 1-3. What do you have left to lose? It's not a full game. It's not a full season, and this is a non-conference where you can make this up in conference play. I think McNamara is going to get the start, at least the first drive, and hopefully that puts some humble pie into Joe Milton's mouth. But and it's not like he's not humble, but maybe a wake-up call to, if anything that's on his end, that he's not performing well behind the playbook. But I think McNamara.
I disagree. I think Milton will get the start here, but I think it'll be extremely short leash. And I think it's going to be one of those. First off, if you can get something going and get some plays schemed up, you mentioned this actually, I believe it was our week 2 episode where we were talking about Michigan State, but unfortunately we haven't had any preseason games. Preseason meaning like out of conference, we didn't get to start with, Eastern Michigan. We've been in Big Ten play since we kicked off, so
yeah.
Sometimes Rutgers. And I understand they've won a couple of games this year, but Rutgers can be that game potentially. And I think Milton gets one more opportunity. Not that I think he deserves it, but I think he'll get it. But ultimately, I think no matter what, I think we'll see Cade. I think he'll find a way to get himself in there, whether it's in packages or late in the game, or maybe Milton struggles. I think we for sure see Cade. But I do think Milton probably starts and at least gets an opportunity to redeem what was an awful Saturday night game against Wisconsin. Michigan's going to play their fourth night game of the year, opening up with Minnesota, and then let's see, they had, gosh, I already forgot the second loss already. Indiana was a night game, right?
Yeah, Michigan State was a noon kickoff, so noon kickoff for Michigan State. Everyone else has been primetime.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's I don't know. I guess we'll see here, but that's my initial. First off, let's pretend Michigan's going to win this game before we get your game pick. How do they do it?
I think they do it probably. I think they probably do it in a balance because you look on here on paper and statistic-wise, Rutgers and Michigan are pretty damn close onto just about everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to rely on anything particularly. I think they're just going to try to just do whatever's working, and I think it's going to be a little of a balance. Rutgers is giving up 175 on the ground, giving up 243 in the air, and that's damn close to what Michigan's doing exactly. And they're giving up 34 points a game. Michigan's giving up 34.5 points a game. I think this is a game where Michigan stays balanced. I think that's how they're going to do it.
The crazy thing is if you look at Michigan's offense, this would get it done in the NFL every week. 260 through the air and 117 rushing, that would get it done, and you're scoring 26 points. But they're allowing 35 points a game, 425 yards a game. Like, if you remember correctly, the first like 3 or 4 years under Harbaugh and Don Brown was allowing like it was something silly. It was like 11 points a game or some shit.
It
like
was
that.
very good.
It was like unreal. Like, and then obviously when we had our more competitive matchups, that a team might score 20 but dude, there was a shutout streak in like 16, I think it was, or 17. There was like a 4-game shutout streak where the fourth game they were literally going for another shutout. But it's like, what have we come to? That we are allowing 425 yards a game. But Rutgers in their season this year, they beat Michigan State, and then they lost to Indiana. But I mean, scored 21. They lost to Ohio State, but scored 27. And then unfortunately, I think they should have won this game, but they lost to Illinois, 23-20. I think just looking at the mutual opponents, we've played 2 mutual. They were able to beat Michigan State and lose to Indiana. We lost it to Michigan State and we lost to Indiana, but they were actually we allowed 1 extra point. So essentially, by mutual opponents, Rutgers might beat us.
Well, like I said, statistically, this is very even. It's really hard to call this one. And when you're going through the scores, when you touched on Ohio State, that 49-27, that is such an Ohio State Michigan score over the last like 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So with that being said, what's your Saturday night prediction? There, Michigan's favored, I think by 10 points in Vegas. I believe it's 10 points. But they're giving a 63.5% on ESPN. What's your initial reaction? What do you think? Who wins this game?
I think Michigan gets back on the winning track this week. And again, I've kind of been I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I've been kind of close in my thoughts in the last 2 weeks for these guys. I think this is a game that Michigan can get their hands on. I don't think it's going to be in convincing fashion by no means. But again, I think it's going to be a close game. Rutgers is going to be competitive. They've obviously looked like they have signs of life compared to the last few years where they're basically just a body bag for every Big Ten team that comes in Piscataway or wherever they travel to. Again, Illinois is not a hot shot, but 3 points from winning that game. And obviously they took down Michigan State by 11 points and we lost to them by 3. Their quarterback kind of has a turnover issue. I don't know. I feel like this could be a 1-possession game, but I think Michigan can get the dub here.
So I think they're going to do it running the football, and I think they're going to win too. I think it'll also be close. I think Michigan wins by 4 to 7 points, somewhere in there. I think both teams probably hit the 30 mark, though. I think it might be 34-30. I don't think Rutgers is going to struggle to score on Michigan. I really don't, unfortunately. I mean, it shows here. We'll see, though. I think if Michigan's able to really put it down on the ground 200 yards like they did against Minnesota, they're going to win this game. Mm-hmm. If they struggle and they can't seem to allow anybody to get a groove and they're not going to give anybody carries, then they're going to allow Joe Milton to throw it 40 times. Then I think we lose.
Mm-hmm. And another, I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, the East Coast this past weekend for the NFL games seemed a lot inclement weather. It looks like this weekend coming up here in Piscataway, it's going to be 65 and cloudy. So it looks like a warmer weekend, no precipitation as of right now. So, like I said, I feel like, in my opinion, you said it's going to be running the ball. I feel it's more balanced. If it is inclement weather, obviously running the ball will be huge. Keeping the ball tight, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was finished off. I mean, that's really what I think it's going to come down to is Michigan in their one win this year, they were able to run the ball, and they haven't shown that they can do it since. So I think that's, it's the only thing that I've the common denominator that I'm coming up with. Run the football and you can win this game. They outrushed Michigan State, but it's not like they were dominant. So need a dominant run performance against Rutgers to get it done, in my opinion. So moving on, I want to take a second here, and you invited me to this Michigan Facebook page a while back, and there's a lot of negativity on there, and rightfully so. Right now, it's a pretty rough time for Michigan fans, and it's really made me think. There's people that are throwing different names out, and I've thrown my own name out of Joe Brady, and we've talked a little bit about that. But I seen one today, Mark Richt, the old Georgia head coach that went to Miami. He didn't work out really, but we're not going to assume that Harbaugh is getting fired or leaving. We're kind of done beating that bush for now. But I want to touch on this. What exactly is a successful season at Michigan in your eyes?
In my eyes,
yeah.
All right. I don't want to digress too far, but depending on who you ask, there'll be two different answers.
Yes.
In my eyes, a successful season is winning the last game on your regular season schedule, getting to Indianapolis, winning Indianapolis, and going to the college football playoff. And then when you can prove that you can do that, then I take it to another level higher and winning the national championship.
Okay. So I guess I think there's a lot of people that want what you just said, but I feel like that we're not close to getting.
Oh, we're not. We're definitely not.
So I guess where I look at it is, where can we make that next step? And I think the thing that pissed a lot of Michigan fans off this year, and I know I can speak for you, and I can definitely speak for myself, it's not losing all the time, but the Michigan State loss was big. You can't lose that game. You can't lose that game. But I'm just going to go back, and we're going to go back as far down as 1997. So 1997, Michigan shares a Big Ten. Shares a national championship, but they win 12 games. They lose 0. Okay, that was with Lloyd Carr, a Hall of Fame college football coach. I think he went like 120-ish and 440. I mean, he was a fabulous record.
73%.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great record. But let me give you his average, just like some seasons under him. Obviously 12-0, but since 1997, it's 10-3, 10-2, 9-3, 8-4, 10-3, 10-3, 9-3, 7-5, 11-2, 9-4. You see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people liked Lloyd Carr. I know towards the end there were some people that were getting on his case, and they were asking for him to be fired or leave, or you're too old, you're out of date, whatever. You're losing to Ohio State. It was like, I mean, he lost. I think the last time they beat Ohio State was 2002. 2002.
2003.
2003. Okay.
Yep.
So he lost with Henne and Hart and Manningham and Jake Long. He went 0-4. Okay. But then Rich Rod comes in, and he's a pretty bad example in this. Doesn't ever win 8 games. But then Oak comes in. He wins 11. Goes 11-2. Pretty good first year. Actually wins his bowl game too. And then after that, it's 8-5, 7-6, 5-7. Pretty bad. Then Harbaugh comes in and he goes 10-3, 10-3, 8-5, 10-3, 9-4. Everything I just read you. Okay? And even before, I'm going to save you all the heartache, but there's a bunch of 10-2s, 10-3s, lots of 8-4s. That's what Michigan is. So yes. This right here is a bad season. I'll give you that. The 8-5 2017, that's an overrated season. He was playing with John O'Corn. We know how bad John O'Corn is. I'm going to defend Harbaugh there. Mm-hmm. But it makes me really wonder, is Harbaugh doing a bad job in your eyes?
Well, you have to look at it with your expectations on why did Michigan bring him in? Because they wanted to go to the elite level, right? And we're basically, I mean, other than this year, the 10-3 is the old 9-4. You're playing that extra game in a season. So the 10-3, sure, double-digit wins look great. my first glance. But it's just another 9-4 season, and the some of the fan base is kind of waking up. Sometimes it's the overreactors. I'm not an overreactor most of the time, but then you have the people that are with me that been seeing this for a while. Michigan is all-time wins leader, all-time percentage, blah blah blah. Well, the percentage is kind of back and forth with Notre Dame, but the wins, and part of that is obviously we've been around. We've been around the longest. And we are consistent. You look at how many, 12-win seasons Ohio State's had in the last 5 years. It's 4 out of the last 5 years they've won 12 games or more.
Yeah.
Michigan's done that twice since World War One. So you bring in Harbaugh because you want to be like Ohio State. You want to get 12 wins a season or more, and so that's why the expectation is not meeting reality right now. We're just basically, other than this year, we're just falling in line where we've always been. And the reason why Lloyd Carr got knocked out is because Jim Tressel got brought in, won 2-3 in a row. Lloyd Carr is, older than Jim at the time. And so he's kind of running outdated offense. And it's not like it's bad offense, but you are playing Ohio State, who's got all these speedsters, and you just can't match it. So Lloyd Carr kind of fills it out, kind of like Mac Brown did at Texas. But I don't want to get off the rails too much. But yeah, that's my answer. Is you got to look at your expectations to what you're used to.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing is managing expectations. I mean, that goes for everybody in life. Managing expectations is literally the key to life. Literally, I just think we're being a little hard on Harbaugh. I really do. And not this season. This season's been pretty fair. But I have a really tough time trying to say let's fire a guy who has done as good as anybody else in this program's history. Really, he has. I mean, obviously the 0-6 record against Ohio State, or 0-5, whatever the hell it is at this point. It'll be 0-6 after this year if it's not already. But the 1-4 in the bowl games. I think he's 2-4 against Michigan State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. You got to be better there, but I don't know. I just I feel like we'd be letting something go that maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. I'm going back and forth on this because something in me tells me that we've got the guy, but I don't know that we can have. I'm not going to sit here and preach that we need Urban Meyer, but there's only 3 or 4 coaches that I think can take you to the next level. I don't think there's another coach that's going to come in and just be better than Harbaugh was. I think it's more than that. I really do.
It's a slippery slope with Jim Harbaugh because we've talked about before off air. He's such a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
Outside the season, every time he's had a stumble, usually after the Ohio State game, the noise that chatter that it's created. Oh, him and Andrew Luck, man. The Indianapolis Colts, man. They need a head coach. They're going to reunite there. And then you got all these guys. Oh, my source is this. My sources are that. My source is this. And so you have all these people that tear him apart 4 months a year, and then he is the first name on their list for the next job that's open available. So it's like, do you hate the guy? Do you like the guy? You got to make up your mind. So it's like the guy is almost respected, and he's also just shit on all the time. And
absolutely,
I partially shit on him because, again, my expectations are, we brought you in here, man. We want to go to 12-1 or 13-0 like you did with Stanford and Andrew Luck. Okay, are we doing this dance until we get an Andrew Luck in here, or are we just doing this dance and we're just stuck in this rut that we were in with Lloyd Carr at the end of his tenure? But again, Harbaugh is he's almost like a mythical being, like a Bigfoot. Like you can't prove anything. I don't know. It's just so interesting because, again, after the season, obviously it's already picking up steam. Yeah, he's going to go back to the NFL. And then Joel Klatt thinks he's just going to be doing a world bus, or a United States world bus tour, in the offseason or, for ESPN. It was like a sideshow gig. But I don't know. It's, dude, it is just so interesting.
Yeah, he's honestly, I mean, you said it, polarizing is really the best way to describe it. But, I mean, the only reason I brought this up today is because I just feel like Jim Harbaugh never said he was going to bring us a national championship. That never came out of his mouth. He never once said, hire me, I'll bring you a national championship. I'll make you the best program in the country. That never came out of his mouth. That's what Michigan fans assumed he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some people have an issue with his pay. But it's like, here's the thing. If you're what's my best analogy? I know I gave a great car analogy last week, so I'm gonna try and do a good one again. But if you work at McDonald's, okay, and you're a great burger chef, all right, you're only gonna make minimum wage. Doesn't matter if you're the best burger chef in the world, okay? You flip burgers, you pull the press down, it makes the burgers, all right? When you go to that next step and you go to an elite burger joint.
Red Robin.
Sure, Red Robin.
I'm just with you.
No, but okay, let's use Red Robin. If you're a bad burger chef at Red Robin, you're going to make more than the McDonald's guy did. That's just how the system works because they feel like at Red Robin they need to pay you a little bit more. Michigan has to pay Jim Harbaugh a little bit more. They had to. So to sit here and say like they overpaid for him, what did you want him to make?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Should he have been named at the time? He's not anymore. But should he have been named the highest paid coach in college football? Probably not. It's probably a bad look. You haven't done anything in college football in 5 years or whatever at the time. But I don't know. I finding myself defending Harbaugh more and more, and probably I shouldn't be. I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with no matter what happens. If he gets let go, okay, on to the next guy. But truthfully, I feel like I don't know that the next guy is going to be anything, honestly. And I definitely don't want another Rich Rodriguez. Not that I thought Rich Rodriguez was a bad coach, but I don't want to go and win 3 games next year. I don't want that. And you could argue, well, we're only winning 3 games this year. I don't know. There's a lot to it. COVID, scheduling, what he's dealing with on and off the field with whatever is going on, but quarterback situation. I don't know. I just I find myself defending him more and more. That's why I brought it up. I kind of wanted your take on it, but yeah, we'll move on here. We'll get into the last segment before we call it a night. But let's talk some neutral college football. I didn't even tell you we were going to talk about this, but it just came to me. So, Ohio State, Indiana this weekend. Who wins?
Ohio State, but
I agree.
I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I could be wrong. I just feel like Indiana got a lot to prove. They got a lot of confidence right now, and I mean, look at 2012. They almost beat Ohio State when they went undefeated, and they couldn't play in their bowl game because of violations, whatever. They took Ohio State down to the wire. I think it's going to be like that this year.
I would almost feel like this season's been salvaged if Indiana can upset Ohio State. I know that sounds really like everyone's like, you're just a hater, but like,
you know what though? The way the whole college landscape is going right now, with SEC and the ACC having, or in the Big 12 even having their upsets that they have, it would only be just part of the narrative. Honestly, I mean, it'd make headlines for sure, but if it happens, it's just kind of the way the season's been going.
Yeah. But last thing, 4 teams are going to make it in the college football playoffs. At this time, we haven't talked any about expansion. Yours probably looks a little bit similar to mine, but for me, it's Bama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Clemson. What do you think?
I'm exactly right there. If this past weekend, if Maryland and Ohio State played and Ohio State would have won, Ohio State stays at 2, Notre Dame's at 3, Clemson's at 4. But with Notre Dame putting on a pretty good effort, pretty good ball game, they jump them, and that's just only because Ohio State didn't play. But that could be obvious to some. But I think if Ohio State wins well, they look good. And obviously depends on what Notre Dame does, but I mean Ohio State could take that 2 spot back, but my top 4 is exactly the same. And Clemson, again, you can't really hurt them a whole lot because they're playing out with literally their best player. Because
not
of
COVID, not even just their best player, the best player in the country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I at this point, I'm almost rooting for a Alabama and Clemson first round matchup, Ohio State Notre Dame first round matchup, and see what the national title gets from us there.
Speaking of Ohio State Notre Dame, isn't the last time they played each other was with Troy Smith and Brady Quinn?
No, actually, the last time those two played each other was 20. What was so they in 16. No, timeout. 14, they won the national championship. So I believe it was 15 the year after they put a whooping down on Notre Dame in the Fiesta.
Okay.
Yeah. They it was with Urban for sure. So yeah, they just played them fairly recently. Matter of fact, is it Jalen Smith? Yeah, Jalen Smith tore his knee out in that game or whatever in the bowl game.
Okay. And Notre Dame, they got to go to Chapel Hill this week to play North Carolina and Mac Brown. I kind of mentioned his name earlier. He's got North Carolina playing pretty well on offense.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be a sleepwalk. So
I agree.
And that excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you again, but I mean the Boston College game. I know they won 45-31, but that game was close for a while. So we'll see what happens.
It was. Nope, I'm with you there. I think no matter what, Notre Dame and Clemson are going to play again in the ACC championship game. Notre Dame's the only time Notre Dame's going to play in a championship game.
Yep.
And it'll be fun because Trevor should be back. So
it was trippy watching that Notre Dame, because I was out in the yard doing yard work on Saturday night, and I had the game on my phone, and I'm watching the Notre Dame on offense or just on the field in general, and I saw the ACC bumper on their helmet. I'm like, dude, that looks so weird. But yeah.
Truly, they probably should be in the Big Ten. But if they want to join the ACC, fine. I mean, I think they should join a conference. That's just me, but it is what it is. So, anything else you wanna add before we log off here?
No, not that we haven't done already. I mean, God, the relentless coaching theories is just so ever entertaining. So from here till next week's episode that we do together, if anything else entertaining or hilarious shows up, I'll be the first to bring it up.
Yeah, for sure. We're not going to sit here on this pod and be like, we need Urban Meyer. That's not happening. So,
oh Lord.
And I'm also not going to call for another coach's head, but at this point, I guess I'm okay with whatever happens. But I tried to defend Harbaugh a little bit today, and yeah. So until next time, sir. It's been real.
Later, my man.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.